So when you take a look at the two companies, FSS is a reactive company. I call it Big Hammer Company. If you've got a problem and you're shut down, FDA came in the door and said you can't produce another product at $1 million a day, you need somebody in there that's going to give this thing a complete fumigation gas, get gas out, and be ready to come back in the line right away. We had a case where a guy called us, 25 million cubic foot baby food factory. They were shut down. They got on news, got a recall for the baby food. It cost them $250 million for this recall for one insect that you saw back in the lab back here, called a warehouse bee. And then we worked for 5 years after that to make sure. So Insects Limited is prevention. You give us the facility before there's an outbreak, and we'll keep that outbreak down to a minimum, if at all. FSS, if you give it to us after there's an outbreak, then we're going to have to do something with a big hand. Thanks for the opportunity. Tell our story. It's always nice, especially when you're an entrepreneur. You can talk for years. You like talking about your kids. But today I like to just maybe start it off by saying we took a train ride to Racine, Wisconsin, to S.C. Johnson Company, the off company. And on the way up there, our whole purpose was, this is in 1992, was to come up with a mission statement. Remember when mission statements were a big thing? So we wanted to have a reason of who we were and what we were doing. So we sat down for that train ride all the way up and all the way back and put together our ideas. And let me just read to you, if I can. The two companies, Insects Limited, Fumigation Service and Supply, are based on the following principles. In all, our aim is to strive for quality service, provide the absolute best products available worldwide, to be a respected world-class organization, and maintain profitability with innovation, alternatives, and education. Innovation, alternatives, and education. Since 1992, not one word of that has changed. And that's been our guiding focus. So that's who we are.
Awesome. And you grew up in Evansville, Indiana?
I did. I grew up in Evansville. I went to Rice High School.
So when you think about your childhood and growing up, what lessons did you learn? What shaped you? What experiences early in your life?
Well, my father was a flour miller, and he was a World War II veteran, came home from the war, found a couple jobs, and helped support 5 kids. Mom stayed at home. We had one car, 5 drivers, and if you wanted to drive, you had to get up early in the morning and take Dad to work. And he left at 6:30 in the morning. That's just the way it was. We were middle class. We didn't know we were middle class. We just looked like all the people in our neighborhood. And I had 2 older sisters and a younger sister and brother, and I was the middle of 5. And as you know, the middle of 5 is the manipulator. They have to be able to take care of what's up on top and what's on bottom. So that was my background. And the very first time I made any money, it was great. A sister and I were given the job of taking nails out of a white fence that kept the dog in. The dogs left. And so my dad asked us to take nails out of those fences. And there were 4 nails in each fence. And we would get a penny apiece. And I remember I got 109 pennies out of that. And I had my own money. And maybe somewhere back in my past, that memory of making money kind of followed me all of my life.
Are there any lessons you can think of that you learned from your parents when you were growing up?
They were hard workers. My father worked 6 days a week and never complained, and we learned how to work. The second job that I had was in the river bottoms of down in the Ohio River by Evansville on the west side, and they would have bean fields. This is before Roundup Ready and all the other things. You had to pull the weeds out of the bean fields, soybeans. And I made 95 cents an hour. And I thought that was a great job because I made money. And the next year I made $1.05 an hour. So I was 11 or 12 years old about that time. But in our family, we always had a job. Everyone had a job to do. Let me tell you a quick story. I got tapped on the shoulder. I wrote a book in 1997 about stored product protection, a period of transition. And in that transition, it was how this product called methyl bromide was being phased out of the environment. It was an ozone depleter. It ate that small layer of ozone that protects from UVB light coming in and causing skin cancer and cataracts and all those things. So after I read that, I wrote that, we started doing different patented methods. And then I got tapped on the shoulder in San Diego one day by a Spaniard from the United Nations who said, "You want to come work with me?" I said, "Well, sure, that sounds like fun. Where are we going?" And he started naming off the places. We were going to Zimbabwe, we were going to Thailand, we were going to Vietnam, we were going to Georgia, and on and on and on. And I had an opportunity at the payroll of the United Nations under the Montreal Protocol to see a lot of countries. I'm heading to Belize next week, and that'll be number 74. So 74 countries that I've had a chance to see how people live and how people work and how they eat. And what a great opportunity. And a lot of that had to do with this methyl bromide product that was hurting the ozone that then they were trying to phase out. $2.4 billion budget by the United Nations to work with developing countries, countries less than about $4,000 a year per capita, and teach them how to look for alternatives. Wow, that was fun. Highlight of my life.
Of the 74 countries, which is your favorite?
Yeah. I love Africa, Tanzania. If you ever get a chance to go to Tanzania, you've got Ngorongoro, the crater full of animals. You've got the Kilimanjaro there that's losing the whitecaps. And number 3, you've got the Serengeti Plain, all within a day's drive of each other. If you like nature, no fences, wide open, animals like you've never seen before. Very cool. Lots of big bugs too.
Having that worldview and having the opportunity to interact with so many cultures, are there common themes or threads or things that you've taken away from that experience?
Good question. The first thing that I think about is that one of the reasons I got into this business was food. Now, we in America are pretty lucky that we've got food to eat. We can go to the grocery store, we can do whatever. But that's not what it's like all over the world. Insects that eat food is something that then the humans will not have to be able to feed themselves. In the United States, about 16% of our income goes towards feeding ourselves. 16%. But in developing countries, it's almost 100%. So everything they do and every energy of every day is about going out and being able to find food to feed them and their family. The women leave in Africa in the morning early with their daughter or daughters. They go out and find sticks that they're going to start a fire with. They may have to walk a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles. They come back, they get a fire going. They have white corn. This is in Tanzania and most of that area of South Africa. And they make a product called seza. And seza is white corn like our oatmeal. And they cook it. And they cook it about mid-morning and in mid-afternoon. And that's what they eat, all. Unless they can catch a monkey. And that's the meat that they eat. So when you start thinking about how we in America are, how lucky we are, and hopefully what I was trying to do in my career was to be able to pass on ways not only to protect the environment, but also so that some people would have more food to eat rather than insects have food to eat.
Very cool. Very cool. You shared with me as we were kind of preparing for this your essential team that you put together that you feel like really helped and aided in your success as you built this business.
Sure.
Can you talk about a little bit and share with your key team?
There's number 1, there's number 2, and there's number 3, and that's my spouse. When you have a small business and you want to start bouncing things off of people, ideas and problems and worries, you better have somebody there that can come for the ride. Mary Beth Mueller, my wife, was very good at that. She stayed away from the decision-making process of the business, but she was always there to give her opinion if I asked. She was always involved with the accounting part or the bookkeeping part at the very beginning. So that was a tremendous help to have that kind of faith that we were going to, make payroll next week. But also there's a whole team in here. I have 2 sons and a daughter. Pete Mueller is in the back. Raise your hand, Pete. Pete runs fumigation service and supply. Purdue graduate, has started fumigating at 4 years old. Literally. And then Tom Miller is my son. He runs part of Insects Limited along with Pat. One correction is Pat's now the president of Insects Limited.
I saw you showing off the posters of the Fumigants and Pheromones conference that you started. Was it your work with the UN that led to that, or how did you decide that you're going to launch this international conference?
I wanted to be able to see what the rest of the world was doing. So, somebody, let's say in Germany, how do they do the job that I do? Will they use the same products? Do they do the same safety procedures? Do they have the same regulations that we do? So, we went out in 1993. We've been doing conferences here for a number of years. And I always think that education is a very important part of every business that we do. And I always say you share through education, but you also market through education. But this was a young man and his father who were making chocolate. Remember back in the low carb days, where everybody had low carb bars. He made a low carb bar, had sugar-free chocolate in it, and he sold it to Walmart. And this was kind of big for him because he was out of his league, but he did it anyway. So I got a call on a Friday afternoon from this guy saying, I need you in Orlando, Florida, and I need you now. I go, well, I can be there as soon as I can. Okay, you go down there, and we're in the Walmart, next to the pharmacy where the bars were, which is next to the dog food, which is next to the bird seed. So everything from the bird seed and the dog food were coming over and attacking his carb bars. They had pulled from 1,927 stores, Walmart stores, his product and said, don't sell it. Now this guy had invested everything he had into that business. His father had invested all his money into that business. We were able to take a look at that bar, take a look at the manufacturing date, tell them when it was manufactured, and as an entomologist, tell them how old that larva in there was. It was a 2-week-old larva, but it was manufactured 6 weeks before that. So the problem came from here, female laying her eggs on the product. Remember the old Hershey Kisses bar, Hershey chocolate bars that were had like a little foil thing in it?
Yes.
And you get the foil out. You notice there's no foil anymore? They don't do that anymore. It's hard to open up. Hard for the bugs to get inside too. But with that little nut inside there, that's attractive to that female who flies in there, lays her eggs, and then that's where the development goes on in the product. We were able to convince Walmart that it wasn't his problem, and he was able to get his product back on the store shelf.
Wow.
That's what we do. Some days it's just information and knowledge, some days it's being preventative, and some days it's being reactive.